you were saying you feel like a lot of people, in terms of how they don't necessarily know like the specific cultures, well, they don't even recognize like the number of countries within the continent of Africa, let alone the fact that there are specific cultures like within each country, you know, where the lines are kind of arbitrarily drawn, kind of dividing people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's. I think a lot of it is, you know, the fact that for a lot of people they feel like it's easier to glaze over their individual, you know, the collective that they come from, because individually, you know, it's easier for you to say that, you know, I am black, you know, and just kind of just glaze over it. But to me, if you've regardless of where you're born, you know, there's a lineage from where you come from, and I think that it's important to recognize that lineage, because there's a lot that's passed on to get to you. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people just it's easier, you know, to just kind of create this very, you know, kind of glaze over, so that you don't have to deal with the complexity of the negative stereotypes that being African kind of provides, you know what I mean, or comes with. A lot of, especially when you immigrate, you know, your main thing is enculturating. You know what I mean? How quickly can I shed the accent? How quickly can I shed the gear? Especially also, it depends. Like in a place like New York, you could probably stand out and it'll be okay because there are other people who embrace their Africanness. And if you're in Ohio, like I was for college, you know, that is not, you know, that's not a place that you would want to stand out as an African. And so a lot of people, a lot of us just kind of have to find a quick way to blend in. I think that, I mean, a lot of it too is just, you know, media monopolies. Like we've never had an opportunity to, as Africans, describe in nuance who we are. So, you know, for instance, if you watch a movie and it's supposed to be like African religion, like they'll pick like 6 of them and throw them together as like one, you know, because who cares? Who gives a fuck that Africans have like a million traditional religions of, you know, different ethnic groups that all have a specific way of doing ritual. You know what I mean? So it's like we've seen the outside world deal with us with that, you know, that mono viewpoint that we've become comfortable with, you know, just this very, and I think so much is lost in the process because, I mean, there's language, there's history, there's culture. Like, I feel like all that is important for us to hold on to as specific different locations. Like, you know, America is one of those places too that, you know, because Europeans who came here are so okay with just being American, and, you know, that's the first thing they try to get you to shed. It's like, because this is truly a country made of immigrants, right? Where, like, people, you know, as soon as you're born here, like, you're supposed to be an American. And that is a European, you know, construct. You know what I mean? I don't think Africans have that luxury, you know, because, you know, I feel like Europe in and of itself has the advantage of Europe has an advantage of a positive, I don't know what the word is, a positive disposition globally. So they don't have to, like, you know, there's no complex that it comes with. So they can shed that easily and take an American image. I think that as Africans, you know, to do that will be running away. You know what I mean?
You know how I would say, like, actually, I find that to be like that whole shedding of like culture, that like the same way in which I find it problematic when Black people like erase a lot of the details. I find it kind of problematic when I've been trying to get away from like the term whiteness too, because I think of it more as a philosophy, you know, like a philosophy of like us and them that's used to like justify slavery, you know, the initiation of it. And I feel like, you know, like even with like, you know, so-called white people, like there's genetic differences, there's cultural differences.
Absolutely.
There's like hereditary like health issues or like benefits, you know, it's like, you know, there's no such thing as like genetic, you know what I mean? Like genetically, there's not like a white, you know,
absolutely not.
Like,
I mean, all of it are constructs, right? I mean, all of it are ways of creating subsets and groups through which you can control, right? Yeah. Because if you couldn't just bundle a bunch of white people who are some are Jewish, some are Eastern European, and it's when you're in Europe that you find out the prejudice that Europeans have against other Europeans. You know what I mean? Like being an Eastern European, like there's a clear difference between that and like a Western European, or being like even like from the southern part of Spain and from the northern part of Spain. Like the differences that people have to endure in that construct. What I'm saying is that in an American context, however, you know, that I think that's where it becomes as glazed over as you can get, because again, it's that's the way that a control mechanism can exist. If people want to identify their roots, then then you start dealing with things like remittance, you know what I mean, and like money leaving the country to help their families or whatever else, you know, which is not what people want. I mean, that's why they're not too keen on immigrants coming from the south of the border, because the money doesn't stay here. They make the money and they ship it back home. Same as Africans, you know, like we're taking care of 5 or 6 family members, getting them through school and all of that. So the quickest way to keep, you know, what America makes in America is to cut the roots as much as possible, so that it's like, okay, you know, this is what, you know, you have no reason to look out. You're so okay with just being like, I'm an American, but you're just one generation, and your uncles and your cousins are still, you know, in Accra or in, you know, Nairobi or wherever else. You know what I mean? And it's very ironic, you know, when I look at photos of Obama when he was younger with his half brothers and other siblings in Kenya, and you look at Obama as president of the United States today, it's like they're absolutely 2 different people. Like you wouldn't even know that this Obama who's president has a grandmother who like looks like my grandmother. You know what I mean? In Kenya. And like, again, if he had never spent time, if he had never met them, I'm not saying that's an excuse, but like he completely spent time with them. You know what I mean? You know, they know each other.
Yeah.
But to be an American president, like you cannot claim like your family like that family. You know what I mean? You don't have that luxury. You know what I mean? You don't have. It's the same way that it's like, because this country requires you to pay allegiance. Like allegiance is such an important thing.